Welcome everybody to the January 15th, 2019 Ask the Experts webinar by First Canada. Tonight we have kind of a potpourri of topics. We want to talk a little bit about deep space, the game. We want to talk a little bit about something that we have from the great team 118 from Texas. We will talk about some of our quizzes, and we'll get some feedback from some people out west and some people in southwestern Ontario as well about how the season's going and what they're expecting that's going to happen. However, feel free to ask any questions that you may have. Please type them into the questions box in your panel on the right-hand side of your screen. This is being recorded as we speak, and it will be posted at the end of the evening on the YouTube channel that First Robotics Canada has, and we'll post the link to that and the other webinars that have been recorded over the last couple of years on the First Canada Facebook page once we finish tonight. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And without much further ado, we're going to get started. So I'll introduce the people that are with us today. So we have Craig Maynard, who's the first senior mentor, as well as I am.
Hey there.
Thank you, Craig. So Craig is from the great city of Calgary and has been first senior mentor there for a number of years. And prior to that, he was a FRC coach, mentor, helps to run the events out west as well, and has also worked with FTC in Alberta and is a retired professor instructor from SAIT, Southern Alberta Institute of Technology. I'm sure there's more to it than that, Craig, but that's all I can remember.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Paul.
And with us as well, first time with us, hopefully it won't be the last time, we have from Team 6331 out of the southwestern Ontario, we have Shuvo and his son Daniel, who is on the team, and Shuvo is a parent and mentor with the team, and they've agreed to come on and talk a little bit about what their team is all about this year and what they're, as much as they're willing to say, what the team is going to try to do. So welcome, Shuvo and Daniel.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the robot in 3 days. I guess I know in Southern Ontario it was interesting because we had 3 groups that were doing it. We had a group at the University of Ontario in Oshawa, and that's an interesting group because the University of Ontario hosts both the FLL Eastern Provincial Championships and hosts, actually it's Durham College there, but they're on the same site. And Durham College hosts the FLL East Provincials, and they also host the first district event in Ontario in the first weekend of March. So they're heavily involved. The University of Ontario had a group, the University of Waterloo also had a group called UW React, and they're a very interesting group. It is the second year that they've done it. And again, the University of Waterloo coincidentally hosts the FLL West Provincial Championships, and they also host one of the oldest FIRST robotics competitions for high school students in Ontario. It's not the first, but it's one of the oldest. And we also had this year the University of Western Ontario and last year's First Canada in Ontario Volunteer of the Year, Eugene Porter, and they hosted one as well at the university in London. So lots of things were going on, and lots of people were watching them. Many of the videos were posted on the First Canada YouTube channel as well, or the website as well, so you could get to see it in there. Shuvo, did you and Daniel and the 6331s get a chance to see any of those live feeds or recap videos?
Daniel?
No idea, to be honest.
No, actually, I did not myself, but we actually had some people who did watch. And we were very happy to see how they have tried to solve some of these problems, especially with climbing the pedestal back at the end of the game, We also looked at them to see how they solved the problem of grabbing the hatches and also the balls, as we call it, the payload and the cargo. So it was inspiring to see how new ideas were used to solve these problems. And I think we have a very young team, we have a very small team, and I think it's inspiring to see that some of these kids looked at how other people have solved these problems and draw ideas from them.
Well, and that I think is the main point behind it, as far as I can see. I don't know, Craig, you've done them. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about what was the point behind what you were trying to accomplish.
About the robot in 3 days.
Yeah.
Oh, they're great. I've done 3 historically. Most of them have been supported by Studica and Andy Marks. Thank you very much. They sent us all the part. And the 3 we've done previously were done in my robotics center at SAIT. So it was an ideal place to build robots because it has every possible tool you could ever imagine, right? This year, I'm retired from SAIT and suddenly realized, oh my gosh, I got no place to build my robot this year. So for a change, we did it downstairs in my basement. And it occurred to me quite quickly that there's a lot of teams that have probably a similar problem to what I had, in that you don't have shear brakes and bending brakes and 3D printers and all the wonderful tools you need. So it takes some very clever resources to be able to work with common hand tools to build a robot. So I'm finding this robot in 3 days to be more challenging, but much more interesting because of the limitations of the, of what you have to work with, and maybe more relevant to beginner teams.
Well, that's an interesting thing that you say that, because I was involved with helping to sponsor those 3 groups in Ontario this year. And what I was hoping that they would do, and what I was suggesting, but it was only suggestion because they're independent of us for sure, was that one or more groups do exactly that they don't use a lot of machining, and that they try to make a robot that a rookie team could do using a lot of hand tools, so that that would be beneficial to rookies, that would be something they would take away from them. I know that the team that I was with originally, what they claimed that they took away from the robot in 3 days, because they've been in existence for a while, as Craig mentions. We've only had 2 years of it in Ontario, but he's obviously done more than that out in Alberta, and in some places of the States, they've been going on for years. But their big takeaway that 4001 had was it was a great way to see some of the prototyping, so they didn't have to do some. And the one that sticks in my mind most was the first year we had to try to climb, I guess, with that the rope. I guess that was 2 years ago. But the rope that we decided to use was one that we had seen in a robot in 3 days, which was a rope made out of Velcro, which because they had prototyped it and it showed it worked, that was one of the things that the 4001 team adopted. And then, of course, they modify it, which is there's only so much you can do in 3 days. So the modification becomes important.
Absolutely, yeah.
But from our side also, if I could add, I think we have a lot of aspiring, technically inclined people who have many ideas. But when you see these people, these teams that are building these robots in 3 days, it gives them a tangible way of actually visualizing the idea that they may have in their head. They just don't know where to start. So from that point of view, I would totally agree with your point that I think they have to show ideas that are easy to use, because our team is small. Mm-hmm. And I think we have a lot of people who are non-technical who are a part of this team. And I think that is especially what we're very proud of, that we bring in people from non-technical interests into the team too. But we also see that they find, quickly that they see that they can do this themselves without having to depend on how to use a 3D printer or complex machinery. So that inclusiveness is something that we really go after.
Well, it's an important point, because one of the things when I was still teaching that I found, I was a computer science teacher, is the hardest thing for students is they're always thinking, well, how do I get started? How do I start this program? What do I do? But seeing some samples like you're mentioning, where the kids on your team on 6331 are seeing that shows them how to get started, and it gets them involved. So that's a great point to make for sure. Craig, what would you like to see teams do? other than the ones that you do? Is there something that you would like to see happen with a robot in 3 days?
I would like to see, there's a lot of prototyping that goes straight into the machine itself, but I would like to see some more modeling going on before they even start to prototype. I would like to see them use Autodesk and SolidWorks to be able to put some assemblies together and test them out, maybe do some simple analysis on them.
Right.
Then go into that. That's one thing we tried to do this year was do everything in SolidWorks, create the drawings, right? And then the drawings were handed out to people for brackets and the arms and assemblies. And the people had all the measurements. It was easy to put together. So perhaps a little bit of modeling before they actually do any work on the robot.
Well, certainly they could record that, I guess, and show it, speed it up to show them creating the drawings or the models, I suppose. That's a great point. Shuvo or Daniel, maybe I should ask, does 6331 do any 3D modeling with
Yeah, we do.
What do you use?
We designed our robot using, I think, CAD, SolidWorks. I have no idea.
Yeah.
And we also use a 3D printer to make a couple of brackets to support our prototype.
Yeah, I think it's certainly many teams in their first year or two, they don't do the 3D design, but it's really important. And the fact that in your virtual kit of parts, you get so much of that virtual SolidWorks or Inventor or so forth, that's very helpful for sure. It's one of the great things I think that happens.
Yep.
And if you could also add, I think an interesting discipline change that we had to do this year is to do exactly what you suggested initially, Craig, that we decided to focus quite a bit on using the computer modeling to bring some discipline into the design of the robot.
Good.
And we were very impressed to see that we actually had a young woman, I think she's in the 10th grade right now, who just picked up the solution very, very quickly. Today we had a build session where she was shuttling between the lab and the shop to take measurements of the robot, fine-tune her design. And it was something that we actively promoted to do this year based on the experience we had last year. Maybe I can add a couple of other points to your questions about what we like to see this year. We also decided to do, as a team, that this was not something that the mentors pushed, the students pulled, to include pneumatics into our design. And what is great about this is that we could have solved this problem with using electrical motors, something that we know very, very well. But the fact that we're adding a challenge and doing it almost in a pull way versus somebody forcing us to do it was very inspiring. So we went out to a company in this region that actually helped us kind of get a little bit of a course on this. The students relished that. Yeah, correct. So shout out to them. Then also on top of that, we are also very excited that we have a camera in the game this year, which is going to also help our software team become a little bit more capable at the end of the day.
That's interesting you say that, because Craig and I, before we started, we chatted a little bit and we talked about the camera as well as being very easy to code, both especially in LabVIEW, which Craig has used extensively, but also in Java, which 11.14 demonstrated at our quick build in Crescent. So that's interesting you say that. One of the things that Craig mentioned was the support that he got from Andy Mark and also from Studica in Mississauga. Just in case you don't know, Studica leases warehouse space to us in First Canada in Ontario. So I'm there quite a bit. I was there today, or yesterday, I should say. And for those teams that are ordering Andy Mark or Rev Robotics parts from Studica, I will tell you that both Matthew Colbeck and Derek Murphy are running back and forth constantly filling those orders. So they're working really hard to get those orders out. So just so you know, when you do make an order, I'm seeing them do it. So you may be getting impatient because we only have 6.5 weeks. But they're hustling. I know they ship they ship all over the world. And usually what happens is when Derek finds out that there's a part that people want, he orders them all. And there are certain times during the build season when the only certain parts you can get, like last year, they were little green wheels. The only place you could get them in any place in the world was Studica. So just to let you know that they're doing everything they can to support us for sure. And if you're in Ontario, if you're in that area of the province, you can pick that stuff up instead of having it shipped as well. The other part is that they're going to run a practice field for us as well out of the warehouse, so that's helpful to teams as well. I wanted to go on to a couple of other things quickly. So we do have a rules quiz, comes out every year. I make it up. I put it on software that I used to use when I was still teaching, so it's self-marking. Teachers like things that are self-marking. So please read the rules manual. What I will tell you is that the quiz is never finished, because just before we started tonight, there was a rules update. I don't know if everybody saw it, but there was a rules update. So I've got to check through that and go through my rules and check to make sure that the rules are there, just so that you can see, not that you can see the stuff. This is the software that I use. And you can see I have a bronze safety badge quiz as well. That quiz has been taken 7,681 times. And it's a variation of the quiz from 2 years ago, but it's been updated for this year. And if you get 100% on the 30 random questions, I think there's about 100 questions, you will get a First Canada safety badge, a bronze safety badge. And at this point, we have 275 quizzes have been taken for our rules quiz. And the reason I mention that is because I'm going to go through tomorrow and randomly pick 4 or 5 or 6. I think we're going to do this for about 10 days. People to win First Canada swag that we'll get out to you if you're in Ontario at your first event, or we'll have sent out to you if you're not in Ontario. So please take our quiz, get your 100%, and make sure that you know those rules. I was going to say, maybe Craig, since you're more veteran than anybody on the call, who should be reading the rules?
Everybody should be reading the rules.
Why?
Absolutely.
Why is that?
Well, because, a lot of people sometimes have their own personal interpretations of some rules that they lock in their heads, and without being able to discuss it with other people on the team, you may go into a competition with your interpretation of what it means to be up on one of the, let's say, level 3, that's completely false, right? So it's really good to have checks and balances. And your robot, the rules are the objective of your robot. And if you don't understand the objectives of your project, you're never going to reach your goal.
One of the big rules this year that I think teams may miss, and typically this kind of rule is one that rookies miss, is that only one robot can cross, I'll say, into the other team's end to play defense at a time. They can switch out, but they can't be in there. So that's something that's different from last year. So if teams were watching those games and they thought they knew that. So there's an indication that the drive team has to know the rules. There are other rules about what you can put on your robot. There's rules about bumpers. There's rules about the number of motors that you can have. There's rules about where you can put your emergency, your e-stop thing that's on your robot to shut your robot down. There's rules about how many that each motor needs a motor controller. So they're very important. And the purpose of the quiz is to have a fun way for people to try to test out their knowledge of the rules. And there's over 100 questions again, but you only get 30 each time taken at random that you can do. Now I know, Daniel, that Ms. Bouquet pushes this stuff and likes her teams to do the rules quizzes and also the safety quiz. Have you done it? I'm putting you on the spot right now.
To be honest, I've never done anything. Like, if she says, read the rules, I don't read the rules.
I'm going to be checking in the next couple of days to see if I see Daniel's name as one of the people who've taken the quiz.
To be honest, I probably won't, because even with school, I don't read. I'm more of a mechanical type of person.
That's got to change a little bit. That's why you're in school, to make changes. So anyways, it's a fun quiz, and I think people have enjoyed it, and hopefully, once the prizes start going out, more people will do it. And we often have teams competing to see how many they can get, how many of their team members can get perfect. So, and win some First Canada swag. And we have new swag this year. So, anyways.
Thank you for doing that, Paul.
Oh, I got the 2 monitors, so I have to do something with them to make it useful. So the quiz is on one side and the manual's on the other side, and it just makes it a little bit easier. The other one I wanted to mention quickly is that UL puts out, along with First Headquarters, a safety manual for FRC. And again, we have a quiz for that, and you could get a bronze safety badge to iron onto your shirt or your hoodie. And hopefully we'll see lots of people with those. And again, as I mentioned, we've had over 7,600 of those quizzes taken. Now, that doesn't mean it's 7,600 people, but it's not everybody gets perfect on their first attempt. I know that's hard for some of those students to believe, but it's absolutely true. And we'll have some prizes for that, which we'll post on First Canada website, and we'll contact through email the people that win. One of the big reasons for tonight's webinar that I wanted to talk about was this Everybot from Team 118. Now, I sent the video out to a lot of rookie teams because I thought it might be a way to do that. I think that's why 118 out of, I believe they're in Houston, that they put this out. But there is a video. I'm not sure it's going to play too well, but I'm going to put it up anyways. And I'll just mute it because it's going to play some music. But they put one out last year. Craig, is that playing or is it lagging?
It's a little laggy on my side.
Okay, I figured it might be. I just was going to play a little bit anyways. But what the robot does is it'll go, as you can see, off the second level. It can go back up to the first level. It can pick up balls off the floor. It can put balls into the cargo ship. And it can put hatch panels. It can pick up hatch panels at the human player station and put them in. And one of the things is it doesn't use pneumatics, which is, we know that a lot of teams, rookie teams, have trouble with that. The other thing that, one of the other things they've provided is a bill of materials. So they'll show you exactly what is part of theirs. Now, you can see that they put down that they've used obviously stuff from the kit of parts, but they have the locations and the exact part of what they got and where they got it, which is what we do with a bill of materials that every team has to do and give to the safety inspector or the robot inspector when they go to their events. But anyways, it gives you some idea of what it takes. And they're saying this is about $400. And of course, that's $400 US, as you might guess. So not only do they have the video showing what it does and its capabilities, their website has all this information on it. So their website this is it right here. And it has a bill of materials. It has a cut list. It has another video of showing it scoring in the low rocket. And why that's important is because the low rocket, if you have read the rules, you will notice that the low rocket, it doesn't have that gap built under it that the cargo ship has that your bumpers can go underneath. So that's why it's a little bit more difficult to put it into, put the hatches and the balls in the rocket for a robot like this Everybot. Now, I contacted them because I can find out their information, and Ryan contacted me this afternoon and said, look, he would love to answer any questions that any team might have. So if you have questions about how they did something, or you want to find out why they did the way they did, what are some of the alternative ideas that they had, here's his email. Please feel free to contact them. So Shuvo, had you seen that video before? I know you didn't get it.
Yeah, we did actually. I think this is one of the first videos that come up in your on my feed. I think on my Facebook feed, I saw this, this Everybot probably about 3-4 days ago.
Yeah, yeah. That's it, and it's interesting because of one of the things that I always wonder about, because I'm always cutting my hands on those metal tubes that we get at kickoff, those aluminum the tubing. Someone needs to work on deburring them. But anyways, because every team got 4, and in the video, if you look at it carefully, and when you look at the bill of materials, you'll see that they use some of those as part of this to send the ball. So that was kind of interesting. I thought that was an interesting one to see. So yeah, I'm pushing this, especially for teams that have low resource and might have difficulty machining stuff. Although, to be fair, many teams in Ontario would be happy to machine stuff for their colleagues here in the province. So, and I'm sure that's the same in Alberta as well, and pretty much over the first world. But
can I add something
sure.
before we go further in the show? I think one of the points about the rules, we actually did something that was very interesting. So we actually reached out to one of my friends who is a mentor in this Hackbox team, and they this is 3414. A shout out to them as well. This team is based in Michigan, so we actually had a teleconference, actually a video conference between some of our people and their people. And one of the questions we asked them is, how do you plan? How do you, when the rules come out, how do you sit down and go through it? And these guys were fantastic in having a big team from their side sit down on the other side of a camera and walk us through some of their processes. And they were very generous in the true spirit of FIRST Robotics to give us information of how they approach the rules. And I did the exact same thing. Well, as close to how they do it, we did the same thing the very first day the rules came out. We came back, we sat down, read through the rules, tried to make a strategy of how we go about getting points. Maybe I'm going too far ahead of where you wanted to be in this webinar, but that was a lesson learned. So I would say that, given we are only 3 to 4 years old, this is something that we would encourage any first team that is, a starting team to do, is reach out to an existing team, maybe more than one, reach out to 2, 3 teams and have them tell you how they do some of the basic problems that you're probably facing as a startup team. And you'd be amazed at how willing they are to tell you how they do things and how much you can learn from a very simple process document that maybe some team has been using and refining over the last 5 years.
It's a great point. We said, usually on the slide where I do the rules, I say, read the rules several times. Because it's important. But equally important, and in some cases more important, is the point that you just made. And that is that you can never emphasize enough that new teams and any team should always be reaching out to other teams. And I guess the point that new teams don't realize is that these people are super willing to help. They would be, there are teams that will give you their code. They'll give you their designs. Say, here, look at this, see what you like, use what's here. Teams will tell you how they did something from years ago. So if you saw a robot like 1114 at a pickup mechanism a few years ago, and in 4001 wanted to know about it, call them up and they sent everything over. It's amazing. And it doesn't seem at first blush that that's the way it should work, but that is exactly the way it should work, and that is exactly what happens. So I would agree with you. I've said it so many times, Shuvo, I can't even believe it. But one of the things I also tell teams is look at who's going to be at your events and contact some of those teams so that they can know that you're interested and they can give you some advice and say what would be a good complementary robot to yours, for example, is a good question. But I'm sure you've seen that as well, Craig, out west.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about the GP.
Yeah, gracious professionalism is important for sure. So thanks for that, Shuvo, and hopefully everybody that's listening will dedicate some kids to doing that, and that's good for kids to do too. It's a great thing to make friends that you're going to meet up at university, and you're going to meet up at competition, and hopefully all of us are going to meet up again at the World Championships and see that as well. So we've gone through a bunch of these, I guess, already. Teams have been doing that, but this is kind of what I wanted to maybe hear from you, Daniel. is where does your team think the points are in the game?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah. So what do you think is something that are important places to get to do? Is it hatches? Is it the cargo? Is it in the rocket ship? Is it climbing at the end? What's the big idea for your team, do you think, or for most teams, in your opinion?
So what we think would be the most important is the hatch, because without the hatch, if no one can do the hatch, you really can't store the cargo, which would be meaningless. Just throwing balls and then the ball just coming out, rolling out again.
Yeah.
So if at least one person in the alliance can do the hatches perfectly, and someone else can do the balls perfectly, and someone else can, for example, make a ramp so all three of us perfectly land on the top square.
So there's
that would be the best, because that way we get the most points. That way we get ranking points. The more things that we can get, the better.
Right, because you don't know. The Ontario events are pretty big. You don't know how many times you might be matched up with yourself and two rookies.
You guys can hear us, right?
Yep, we can hear you.
Our mic is working. You may experience doing. Oh, I hate this Wi-Fi.
It's clear enough. We're getting it, that's for sure. So, is that what your team is going to do then? Are they going to try to get
Well, you
onto
can hear us, right?
Yep, yeah, I'm hearing you. Are you hearing me?
Okay, let's change. Turn off your thing. We'll just use this.
Okay, I've had to mute one to get rid of that feedback, but Daniel's mic should still be
Can you
going.
hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
Sorry, we had to change computers because I think one of our laptops had a problem with
Yeah.
the bandwidth. I don't know if you got a chance to hear what Daniel said.
No, we definitely heard it all for sure. I did wonder what was what was the one thing that you think you're definitely going to try to do for your own robot? Monique's not climbing to the top. Just to let you know, she put in a comment here.
100%, we're gonna do the climbing, or not the climbing. Sorry, the hatches.
Yeah.
And if we can find a way how to maybe like ramp someone up or something like that to the top. Right. What is it? Habitat.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we can do to the top, that would mean more points for us, ranking points. And it could help others teams that really can't do it to get more points.
Right. So, Shuvo, what do you think a rookie team should be trying to do?
You know, this was a lesson learned from what we did last year. Again, you know, if you look at the pedigree of this team, you know, 2 years ago we were the rookie team and we got the rookie award. And then last year, our second year running, we actually got the chairman's award. So we were very encouraged, and I think we did a good job of the last competition. Really walk about it, talk to the teams, and say, you know, when you scout, what do you look for?
Right.
And you know, we got some really good feedback. Some people came back to us and said, look, you know, we look for people teams who are able to do certain functions consistently.
Right.
So not somebody who can do everything, because if you can do everything well, then you are going to be the top seeded.
Right.
But if you're not the top seeded, then try to find a couple of things that you're very, very good at. And I think that was a lesson we took to heart. So right off the bat, our strategy was to identify what is it that we can do, that we think we are very well, you know, that resonated with our team and our capabilities. And we said, okay, well, in that case, we'll focus on the hatches, because I think that is important to have the hatches covered. So we'll be very good at it. And we also figured out that, look, in order for us to be successful, we have to make sure that we can bring the maximum number of points when we come back to base. So we very quickly focused on those as our key competencies that we will be offering to our alliances. Plus, we also had, you know, some housekeeping items, like, for example, lowering the center of gravity from our last year's robot, improving the software so we can be more stable. So those are those are the key actions that we decided to take. Again, as an outcome of the first day's activity, when we went through the rules, had a consensus building on what should be our focus areas and how we think we can collect the points.
It's good. I think that's good. A good tip for all teams, especially rookie and second year teams, is the consistency of whatever you do consistently. And that's not just a first thing, that or a FRC thing. That's for those people who are listening that have been involved with or judging or running teams in FLL. That's the same thing. You can say, oh, I can do this mission, but can you do it consistently? And that was the one thing I used to laugh about when I coached basketball, is a kid would say, sir, I can shoot 3-point shots. And what I meant by that and what they meant by that were different things. I meant, can you consistently shoot a 3-point shot in a game with someone playing defense? And they meant that I walked in the gym one time, picked up a ball, threw it backwards over my head, and it went in. And that meant they could shoot 3-point shots. So the scouting that you mentioned, Shuvo, teams are looking to find, as you pointed out, other teams that are going to do something consistently, so that it's a known factor, and that's a big deal. So, Craig, I wanted to ask you about this autonomous, this sandstorm. What do you think? Do you think everybody's going to have a camera on the robot?
Oh, you know what? There is no better autonomous control system than the human brain. So as soon as they said that you could use a camera, that they're going to blind the screen, but you could control the robot, oh, absolutely, put a camera on that robot, you know. And I can't see why a person would try to do it through software when they'll have the driver's own intelligence driving that thing exactly where you want it.
Yeah,
I would say camera. Yeah.
What Daniel? Are you guys putting a camera on your robot?
To be honest, I actually have no idea what we're doing.
That's not true. That's probably being very, very extreme. Well, you're focusing on the build, but
yeah.
What about the rest of your team?
I have no idea. I don't pay attention to them. I'm great.
So they're obviously split up and working in their own silos, and just it's all going to come together, I guess, at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm more like a hands-on type of person, so I'll design a little bit. I'm most of the time I'm the person you tell I need this made, this.
Well, one of the things you're definitely going to have to make, Daniel, is some way to keep that camera on that robot when it comes to
something,
because I think we're going to see some dragging on the floor.
If we talk to our programmer, I can if he wants a way how we can make the camera look up, down, left, right, for example, like a security camera.
Yeah.
Where it can look 360, or we might as well just get a 360 camera.
Well, I know that if you take a look at some of those videos about the Everybot that they posted, at least a part of them is they're showing an inset where they're showing the camera and what it's pointing at. So that's kind of interesting, the way they've done that. But yeah, I'm thinking Craig's right about the camera. Yeah, especially when it looks like there's one line of code that you need.
Mm-hmm. Well, back to I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Paul. Sorry. If there's a camera on it, it's again the human brain's the smartest, probably the smartest thing on earth. So if we have that, there's less chances of program failure.
Yeah.
Because if it's not properly put in the right location, or if anything like any slight mistake happens, it could jeopardize the points, penalties, anything could happen.
Yeah, and that was just to reemphasize the point about the penalties and the points that you make, is that one of the things that was emphasized in the robot rules update that came out today is to make sure that your robot doesn't accidentally hold onto a ball, because there's big penalty points for having more than one piece of cargo or hatch at the same time. So that's a good point you make.
Yeah.
So just
but we are very excited.
Sorry, go ahead.
Could I?
We're actually very excited as a team to play with this camera, because we are we haven't decided how we're going to deploy it. So, but what is exciting is where the people that are going to the team that is going to work on the camera side, we're talking about how can we use the vision system to potentially help the camera, align the mission arm that will actually put the ball in the right place, the cargo in the right hold. That's a challenge, but it's also an enhancement of skills that come out of this year's robotics program.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. Craig, you were going to say?
I was going to say, I was wondering if I could talk about the points, my objectives or our objectives for the game we were talking about before. Could I throw something in?
Sure.
Can I take control of the screen for 1 second?
I can do that.
You got godlike powers, Paul.
Just for a few minutes. That's all I got for a few minutes. But
just for a few minutes.
I don't want godlike powers. Yeah. There you go.
All right. Can you see the spreadsheet here?
Yep.
See the spreadsheet? This is weighted objectives that we did during our initial analysis right after the rules. And this is just a mathematical quickie, right, to help work it out. So we've got all on the left column here. I don't know if you can see my mouse moving. This left column are all the different ways of gathering points. This is.
Could you zoom in a little bit, please?
Can I zoom in?
Yes, maybe zoom in on the Excel file.
Is it not full screen? Show.
No, you just need to.
I think it's F11. Full screen.
I beg your pardon. Oh, F11. Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. How about that?
Much better.
Is that beautiful? All right. Okay, so the difficulty, 5 is the easiest, 1 is the hardest. So we ranked each one of these scoring points as a group, as a team, by which ones we thought were hard, which ones we thought were easy, right? So 5 is very easy, 2 is very hard, you can see down here. Then we looked at another important factor, the time, because you've only got so much time. So we said 5 is very quick, right? And we like that. 1 would be very slow, so we're not going to get many of those points. Then we looked at the individual scores for each of those, like leaving landing zone, level 1 was worth 3 points and 6 points and so on. Cargo on the shuttle rock. So these are the points right here for each one of these guys.
Yep.
And then the next column here was repeatability. How many times will we be able to do this in a match, right? Assuming the robot's moving quite quickly back and forth, you got a great driver. How many times do you think you can get a hatch on a shuttle? Well, we said 8 times. You can only leave the landing zone once. You can only put the hatch on the rocket during the green part is all autonomous, by the way, right? During the sandstorm, orange part is regular play teleoperated, and then the blue one is end game. So if you can see here the repeatability for the hatch on the shuttle, we could do that 8 times, we thought, or 4 times for these ones, or 8 times for cargo in shuttle. So we looked at how repeatable it was. So we took the score and the repeatability, multiplied them to give us the points, right? To give us the number of points. And so we said that the points times the difficulty times the time would give us a weight, right? The larger the weight, the more advantageous it is to do those things. And this is strictly mathematical. It wasn't even any decisions, abstract decisions. And a couple of things popped out. The cargo in the shuttle was huge, right? 480, a weighting of 480 means it's really popular. Hatch on the shuttle, really popular, 288. So what you guys were talking about focusing on that shuttle, I think was bang on. When you look at the weighting of it, the abstract weighting. And then there's the end games down here. And the only thing I didn't really put into it was the ranking points down at the bottom. Now those are hugely important if you want to get a good alliance, if you want to be the alliance choice. So if your whole goal is to earn a lot of points, go for these things. But if your goal is to be a good alliance partner and being picked by all the best teams, guaranteed, then you want to work on those two. So that's kind of all I wanted to say, Paul. Does that make sense?
No, it makes great sense. It's fantastic. I think we're going to end on that point on some math, which is a great thing.
Math is great.
The only thing better would have been math and French, but we're going to leave it at that. So yeah, I think that the analyses that you're talking about here, and then what Shuvo and Daniel were talking earlier about making decisions and sticking to them, being consistent as a winning strategy. It's been great. This has been a fun webinar. I got to say, I've quite enjoyed this. So I want to say special thanks to Daniel, to you, and to Shuvo for coming on. It's been great. Hopefully we can have you back. I'd love to hear in a couple more weeks how things are going and how all of this is coming together. So thank you very much for coming out tonight. I appreciate it.
And thank you for doing this, Paul.
We had fun. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, no, thank you. And Craig, thanks again. This is like, it's like we're a team, as I said to Monique when she's texting me some things, is that you're my straight man now. I'm going to try to be more humorous. But she's loving how animated you are, and it's the enthusiasm for the robotics and for kids in robotics is fantastic. And
the Trans-Canada webinar.
That's the Trans-Canada webinar. So once again, thank you very much, and to everybody that's still on the call. I will send out the documents that we showed today, and we'll talk to you soon. So thanks and good night.
Good night, Paul.
Bye-bye.